Today, I welcome you to come on a journey of discovery with me. We're going to try amazing sculpt. Brought to you by the professional artists at just professional artists. Somewhere, I guess. The theory is this is like the epoxy sculpt I've been using. It's a little bit cheaper for the same amount of weight, but boy, it sure does look like less. I don't know, we'll see. It's only a couple dollars cheaper for the 2 pounds. Or, no, it's 4 pounds, 2 pounds in each part. So far it looks identical. Smells identical. Tastes the same. Let's see what it's like when it's mixed, shall we? It's good. It still really hurts your fingertips and fingernails when you try to dig it out. That's a good sign. I want to note that I'm taking a little bit of a risk by trying a brand new material midstream, as it were, right in the middle of a project. It's not a huge risk because the stuff I'm using it on right now this is not going to be the actual piece of material that goes on the Colossus. This is a piece that I'm going to mold and cast. So even if this stuff doesn't set up or it melts or catches the piece on fire or whatever, it's not a huge loss. Yeah, I take it back. It does have a little bit of a different smell. I was trying to place it, and I just did. It's, if you ever had kids and babies, there's this thing called a diaper genie. And it's this device, it's like a little round trash can with a lid, and you push the diaper down into it and twist the lid, and so it, in theory, it blocks the smell of the diaper. But what you end up with is the smell of like weird plastic in diaper, and that's what this smells like. Also, for the record, I didn't actually taste it, and neither should you. That was done with cutting edge special effects. It's a technique called the word for that. It's the same thing as like when an actor punches another actor, but the camera's on the other side of him, so you can't tell the difference. It's like it's not forced perspective, but it's something like that. Well folks, today is a very special day in the life of this project. Today, Mr. Colossus here turns 1 year old. I officially started working on this on Thanksgiving Day of last year. If I'm doing my math right, that was 2012. And we're now in 2013. Wait, 12 plus 1, yeah, 13. So, that's a long time. I don't know if you're aware of how long a year is. I think it's several hundred days, a couple thousand hours. Anyway, I mean, I wasn't working on it consistently all the time, obviously. I had a really, crammed work schedule during the summer. I was working some crazy hours, so I didn't work much on Mr. Colossus here. But, so that was about 3 months. So, I mean, really, I've been working on him maybe regularly about 9 months, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's a year now. So, gonna have a little birthday celebration. Why not? In this case, the birthday cake is pumpkin pie because it's Thanksgiving. American Thanksgiving, by the way. It's not that cheesy knockoff Canadian Thanksgiving. I don't even believe that really exists. Alright, well, let's sing a little song, blow out the candles, and we'll get back to work. So, well, one candle, because he's 1 year old. Can you help me sing, Shane? Help me stay on tune. Okay. 1 and 2. Happy birthday. You gotta say.
Oh, happy
to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Barbara. Happy birthday to you. Light the candles. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You might be wondering what I wished for, or what Barbara wished for.
It's a birthday
Answer
party.
is,
What do you say? It's a very special.
I just really want this to be done!
One for all and all for one.
I just want this stupid thing to be over so I can do other things in my life. And that's not much to ask.
Kick your feet up off the ground.
You start a project like this and you think it's going to take maybe a couple months, right?
The word is out all
I mean, I had a table reserved in Norwestcon. I was going to show them off last April. Did that happen? No, that didn't happen.
So won't you come
I thought, well,
up with me?
maybe if I crammed, maybe not, but no. Not even close. I feel like I've been halfway done with this stupid thing
And jump around.
for 6 months.
Kick your feet up off the ground. Hip hop. The word is out all over town. Hip hop.
What's the rest of this? Yeah, time to get back to work. And it's time for tool time with your host, Josh, the mostly incompetent tool man, Foreman. So, let's talk about Dremel tools for a second. I was just cutting this guy into pieces because as I was adding to it, I noticed the arc was too wide, it wasn't symmetrical, I needed to get in there and cut it, reposition it, and then I'll glom it together. And that's what this epoxy sculpt stuff is just fantastic at. It's why I use it. It's great. You may have noticed that I've been cutting things fairly regularly over the past several, for me, months, for you, minutes. And I was using these little guys. And these are for metal cutting. They're ceramic, which means they're super, they can cut through metal, but they're super fragile. They'll snap in half like a little wafer. Wafer thin. So not very good. They kept breaking. I kept having to stop and unscrew the thing, put another thing on, re-screw the thing. Okay, so finally I decided, hey, why don't I stop wasting my time and just get the right thing? So this is what you want to get when you're cutting through substantial chunks of this. This is a cutting kit. It is also a metal cutting kit. However, it comes with, you don't need the kit, you could just get the blade. But the specific blade you want is a fiberglass reinforced one. So this, I've actually used it to cut through a microwave, believe it or not. And now I'm using it to cut through this, and it hasn't snapped or even come close to snapping once. Fantastic. This is another thing I just ordered. I haven't tried these yet, but we'll see. They're pretty terrifying looking saws, which I'm pretty excited about using, and probably taking a thumb off on accident. Anyway, yeah, so back to your previously scheduled program. Well, right now, I don't know, it's probably the 1 year thing, but I'm starting to get really antsy about how much I haven't even started on this guy yet. So I think what I'm going to do is get started on the stuff I haven't started yet. So essentially, I've started the feet, the knees, the thighs, the crotchular region, and the shoulders, which leaves the belt, the various other striations of belt things, the bicep, the wrist. Let's see, oh, and I've already got the head blocked in, so pretty good there. Yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to do today, is I'm going to try to at least get a basic general shape on there for everything. It's funny, I've been neglecting these parts so long. He literally has cobwebs growing on him. Here's an interesting thing. This was the first shape that I blocked in for the shoulder, and here's a almost done shoulder piece. So you can kind of see the evolution that it takes. I think it's pretty interesting. Anyway, let's see how I can figure out how to do this. This should be fun. See, at first I was blocking it in with this black paper, thinking that then I could unwrap the paper and I'd have a good idea for how to whatever. Didn't really work the way I hoped. Then I went to covering them with foil and using the clay, Celluclay stuff. And I found that doing Celluclay, this is what I did on the head, doing the Celluclay base and then building up the epoxy sculpt over it, made it super obnoxious because I would be, sanding down or carving in, and I would go from the layer of epoxy sculpt to this, and they were just such different consistencies. It made it really hard to work. So I'm just going the straight up epoxy sculpt route. I think I already said this, but it was a long time ago for me. Anyway. You know, the one good thing actually about having these first draft pieces, I guess, is just for proportion's sake. Remember at the beginning I started making his toe pieces, right? And I made them like 2 times bigger than they should have been. And I had to go back and re-sculpt those. So having this will give me a lot better idea as I'm making the more final sculpt, and hopefully I won't make that mistake again. Check this out. This is a new tool I just discovered. My father-in-law told me about this. It is a multi-tool. I think it's called a multi-tool. Where'd the box go? Oh God, I don't know. It's Craftsman multi-tool. So, I'm sure this has probably been around forever, but it's new to me. It's basically just a vibrating head thing. And there's all sorts of different attachments, like you can put a saw thing on it, a sandpaper thing on it. So I've got this problem where, let me show you a prime example. So, on the head here, you know, I was using my belt sander, which is really just I don't even know what it is, but I flipped it upside down and I used it like a belt sander. But it's very big and it's limited in what it could do, so I wasn't able to get into these little corners like I wanted to, which I can do with my sanding pad things, wherever those went. I don't know. Got sanding sponges, all that kind of stuff. But that's problematic for other reasons. Mostly whenever you're using a hand tool where you're just going back and forth, you're not going to get like a really nice precision machine edge to it. It's always going to be a little wobbly. At least that's my experience. Maybe I'm just a wobbly sander. I don't know. However, with this device, it gives me the mobility of being able to get into corners and little things like a hand tool, but because it's electronic, it does a nice flat, even thing. So one of the issues I had was getting this this surface here to kind of have a nice flat, I guess, angle or whatever from the top looking down. And so I've been using this. Let's see what happens. you can see that lighter area there is the area that's been sanded, and it's just a nice, smooth, consistent surface quality. So I'm pretty excited about that. And you should be too. You should be excited for me. And if you knew as little about tools as I do, you should be excited that you just discovered through me this amazing tool. The end. Back to work. Hey look, so I cleaned up a little bit. Was on an extended break. Well, not really a break, I just got sidetracked doing something else. I was making this giant project for work. It was a gummy worm on a project. I was coordinator for one of our Living World releases, and one of the bosses was this big worm creature. And so for publicity, I thought it'd be cool to make some giant gummy worms that were shaped like them. And I thought, this will probably be like a 30-hour project. Could do it in a week or so. 235 hours Let that sink in. Let that be a lesson to all of us. Now shut up, I need to get back to work. One of the things you may or may not have been noticing is that every time I mix my stuff, I try to get any extra that I have into these small molds, because I feel like I'm never going to have enough of these little extra details that go all over the place. Like you can see, the ones I was using for the back of the belt here are these little guys, and they're really all over the design. So look at that, I've already messed everything up again. That's why it's never worth cleaning. The thing that sucks about being gone from a project for a couple months and then coming back to it, especially one that has so many pieces, is that you really get out of the flow. It's going to take me a little bit to get back into it. Gotta remember all the pieces I was using. Like, I seem to remember this was going to be back here, but then it ended up too big. Yeah, so I needed to make a smaller one, so I made this smaller one. Yeah.
Bye.